You know, I was just thinking about the fact that Godzilla has 2 legs and runs around on them. And for some reason, when I think about that too much, it freaks me out. I don't know why, but the idea that Godzilla has 2 legs and can just run for you, or like just kick you with his legs is, it just freaks me out, the idea of that. It's not even the gigantic nature of Godzilla, it's just the idea that he has legs. He's a lizard who is bipedal. Why does that scare me? Friends, we're gonna talk about Godzilla and Kong. Before we talk about Godzilla x Kong, the new empire, we gotta talk about Project Powerhouse. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna save Project Powerhouse for the review, but Project Powerhouse, that is a point in this movie that is maybe a little bit of a strike in terms of some of the stuff that we had here. But you know what? This movie is not afraid to be goofy. That's what I appreciate about it. And it is really fun. And it is just, I think, a good time. And a movie that doesn't take itself too seriously. That's what we're here for. That's what I like in a movie. I hope that's what you like in a movie. Get ready, because we're going to talk about that kind of stuff as we talk about Godzilla x Kong, the New Empire. So fair warning, I did my non-spoilery review, which is more of my immediate reaction coming out of the theater. I call those my reactions because they're literally right after I get out of the theater, stream of consciousness. I just talk about what's on my mind about the film, and I keep it as spoiler-free as I possibly can. I didn't even talk about stuff that other people talked about in their spoiler-free videos. That's how spoiler-free I am. I usually I'm thinking, oh, I better not say this because it's a spoiler, and then I see someone else's review and they said so many things that I thought were spoilers. So I really keep it light. But this review, we are going to be getting into it. It's a full review, so we're going to be going full spoilers, so just a fair warning. Godzilla is the first name in this title, but you wouldn't be able to guess that from the film, because I gotta be honest with you guys, this is definitely more of a film for the Kong fans. I get it. Kong is smart, which is why this movie is just about Kong. I get it. It's all about the smart people, and Godzilla's apparently a dum-dum. A dum-dum himbo. That's why I love Godzilla, but that's also why I think Godzilla doesn't get as much of this movie, because there's just not as much going on with Godzilla. I mean, we could have built a whole thing about it, but we didn't, so oh well, I guess. I guess us Godzilla fans are just gonna be a little bit disappointed from that, but there's still a lot of fun stuff in this movie to enjoy, so even though I'm more of a Godzilla fan than a Kong fan, I did still have a good time with it. Also, you know I'm a Godzilla fan because I am also a dum-dum. I started off that. I had to do a first take where I just said Godzilla is smart, which is why this movie's about Godzilla when I meant Kong. This is what happens when I just have notes and I'm not fully scripted all the time. Write a script and then, you know, perform the script for you. I become a dum-dum. Call me Godzilla, I guess. The film starts off with Kong. Kong basically starts the movie, and that tells you right away who this movie's really gonna be about. Really, it's Kong featuring Godzilla. Case in point, Kong ends up hurting his tooth. He has a little fight at the beginning. And that's going to be important because we're going to come back to that in a bit. Then we get into some human stuff. I know, human stuff. No one really cares, but there's some pretty important interpersonal human stuff going on. And they do try to make us care. They do put some effort in. And I will say, you know, I'm still impressed at how these Godzilla and Kong movies can get such, I would say, great actors to really do a good job with the human characters, even though none of us care. And the human characters aren't given a lot of depth, but they still cast people to try to make us care. So what's happening with the humans in this movie? Let's talk about that because it's how we get to the monsters. Dr. Eileen Andrews, she has adopted Gia, who is the Kong Whisperer child from the previous films, if you may remember. Or the previous film? I guess just Godzilla and Kong? Let me know. Gia from the previous film in the franchise. And Gia is a teenager now in school, struggling to focus because she got wacky signals in her mind that are making her draw these lines. So what does Dr. Andrews do? Well, she goes to Miami where 80s synth drops, and for literally a minute and a half, I looked over at Uptown Duck in the theater and we just grooved to 80s synth. That's how hard it drops. It goes hard in this scene. I feel like this movie wants to be in the 80s, but it's not in the 80s, and for that, I'm sad for this movie. So she goes to Miami Miami to see Bernie Hayes, who you may also remember from previous films. Bernie wants to basically go with Dr. Andrews to Hollow Earth because Dr. Andrews is like, we've been getting this signal and Gia started drawing it and I need to understand what's going on with this. And Bernie, he can help figure that out, but he's like, look, I need some behind the scenes access. No one knows I saved the world and I want to share it on my podcast, basically. And she's like, I don't know. But then she's like, you know what? All right. So they are going to go to Hollow Earth. Kong just conveniently happens to be above ground at this time because he hurt his tooth, remember I said? And so he's getting a new tooth put in by Trapper, who is basically a kaiju slash monster vet. Really, I think Trapper is just a regular vet, but somehow that also applies to monster and kaijus. He can just, I guess it's a transferable skill. I guess the only difference really between monster and kaijus anatomically is that they have green blood, or they tend to have green blood because we got to keep that PG-13 rating. So Trapper is treating Kong's tooth and they're all ready. They gear up to take a small team into Hollow Earth to follow Kong and see what's up and see maybe where this signal's coming from. So it's Trapper, it's Dr. Andrews, it's obviously Bernie gets to go, Gia talks her way into going, and Mikhail, who's like their tough gun guy. I think you know where it might be going for Mikhail, but we'll get into that in a minute. So we get into Hollow Earth and we check out the signal, we're following it. We find a base that apparently was stationed in Hollow Earth that has been destroyed. Oh no. By the way, there is some stuff going on with Godzilla around this time in the movie. Godzilla basically fights kaiju, basically fights Ebirah. And Ebirah's kind of like a lobster guy. Godzilla wins. Godzilla takes a nap in the Coliseum. Super cute. Yeah, it's established Godzilla likes to sleep in the Coliseum. Kind of like a pet dog vibe is what I get from Godzilla at this point. But, you know, I'm here for it. It's goofy. I like it. Back in Hollow Earth, we're exploring the base that was destroyed. They find some paw prints. Some monkey prints, maybe. Ooh. And we go through the forest. And on our journey through the forest, we hit the first thing in this movie that this movie is really sitting on an edge. It's really sitting on this perfect edge. And there is the land of too goofy, where especially if you take yourself too seriously, I think as a monster movie, you could fall off that edge and you could find yourself in bad movie territory. However, this movie is clearly aware of how goofy it is, and it leans into it, I would say, in the best way. So it sits comfortably on the edge, not being quite too goofy, but being just the right amount. And an example of that is what happens with Mikhail. Mikhail goes from being kind of a cool, like, reasonable guy to just being the most, like, upset. Just at the snap of somebody's fingers, he just goes off and he starts talking about how we're going my way, and if you don't want to go my way, then, like, you know, basically screw you. And of course, what happens? Karma happens. He gets eaten by a tree. Yeah, he gets eaten by a tree. That's the level of goofy we're at, friends. And I saw this coming a mile away. As soon as he started being like, let me tell you how it is, I was like, Mikhail is not gonna make it. It already wasn't looking good when he was the gun guy and someone that we weren't connected to. But as soon as he did that, I knew where we were going. A lot of the times the film is predictable in that way. Sometimes it's successful and you feel good about it, and other times you kind of feel like, oh, that's like just on the edge of being too predictable. So join me and we'll continue to walk that edge. The fact that the base that they discovered is also destroyed is an opportunity where we could have fixed something goofy that happens later, but we chose not to. And I want you to remember that at that moment in time, a few lines, we could have fixed a bigger problem. We'll come back to that near the end of the movie. As we continue on through the forest, rest in peace Mikhail, we find the civilization, we find these ruins, and this civilization seems to be Gia's people. Of course, it's a different tribe. It's a Hollow Earth tribe, but seems like what it is. There's some membrane, there's some water, there's a thing, it opens up a gate, we go through, and we find Gia's people. They're a different tribe, but they are her people, and, you know, she thought she was the last surviving member of this ancient civilization that has gone on for years, but it turns out she's not, because these people are in Hollow Earth, baby! And they also got some sweet, sweet lore for us. But before we get to the lore, meanwhile, Godzilla's basically going full Rose, full Super Saiyan Rose all day, and is just, you know, drinking down nuclear plants and fighting Tiamat in a fight that was kind of lackluster because it was sort of short, but the premise of it seemed cool. I wish they'd done more with it. I wish they'd just done more with Godzilla in general. And meanwhile, Kong is found subterranea, which is basically a hollow earth in hollow earth or a hollow earth below. It keeps going. There's a lot of layers to Earth. Earth is like an onion. It's got a lot of layers. So Kong goes into subterranea, and Kong goes into subterranea and finds these other monkeys and has a whole thing with those monkeys. We get this amazing fight scene where actually I felt like I didn't really know what was going to happen. It was super interesting. May have been the most interesting fight scene we had in the entire film. This is a little sad that it happened so early on, but I digress. We also get to meet Baby Kong, who actually has a name. Baby Kong is named, I believe, Suko. And basically the idea for Baby Kong was that they wanted to do like a Baby Yoda, but like if Baby Yoda was terrifying and you were afraid of Baby Yoda eating your face. And that is definitely what Suko is. He's just kind of terrible. He's this little terror, very much a little terror. I mean, only little compared to Kong. Compared to you or I, he'd be giant. There's one point in the fight where Kong, who tries to give an olive branch to Suko, but then Suko just goes crazy on him. He actually uses Suko as a weapon in the fight. Oh my gosh, it made me laugh so hard. I laughed and was like, aha! I was like, scared. I was like shocked. I was laughing. It was just a great time. So Kong is dealing with these monkeys, and he does end up actually befriending Baby Kong, and they go and meet some bigger, more scary monkeys, which we'll come back to in a second. Meanwhile, the people are discovering sort of the lore, and the lore is that there is this sort of self-appointed king that rose up among Kong's people, who is known as the Skar King. The Skar King basically took hold of them and decided he was not going to be humans' protector, and he kind of wanted to like enslave people. Yeah, it's not a great look. So we actually get to meet him through Kong in person, and he is literally the epitome of a schoolyard bully. He is the most evil. They made him so evil. They gave him a spine whip. They made him control Shimu with like a crystal. It's like a magic wand. He's like Voldemort down there. You know what I mean? He's also making all the other apes like basically like work in the mines. They basically have to mine these rocks, and they're trying to like basically build a big pile of rocks to climb out of hollow earth so they can oppress people on the surface. Clearly, if Skar King and Kong had a quiz instead of a fight, and that's how we decided who won, I'm pretty sure Kong would win, because I'm pretty sure Skar King is also a dum-dum, a big dum-dum. But he is menacing, and he is scary. And he does have Shimu under his control, which is pretty scary. So Kong's dealing with that. The people, the civilization, Gia's people that are this Hollow Earth tribe, they end up having Gia resurrect Mothra. So now Gia's not just connected to Kong, but also Mothra. Also Mothra's back. I loved that. I love Mothra. So to see that was really fantastic. And they really tried to hide it in the trailers from us. Some people may have noticed the gap. That was the gap. It was Mothra. As this is all happening and it all seems beautiful, and we're preparing for this final fight, Godzilla's been getting amped. Kong is dealing with the Skar King. The humans are preparing in their own human way. Kong returns to the humans, comes back through the gate, back into, where are they at? Oh yeah, they're like in a different part of Hollow Earth, I guess. Yeah, they're in Hollow Earth. And Kong comes through the gate, and Kong's hand is all messed up from fighting with Shimu. He's got frostbite. Oh no, he's got frostbite. And Trapper notices that this is bad. And Trapper is like, oh, you know what we gotta do? I think we gotta do Project Powerhouse. And Dr. Andrews like, no, 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 Project Powerhouse? Oh my god, wait, are you talking about the Project Powerhouse? And Trapper's like, you know, the Project Powerhouse. Yes, that Project Powerhouse from the base that was near here, that Project Powerhouse. And she's like, the one that we decommissioned, but that we had all the supplies here in that base, that exact one, that's what we're gonna do. I think they fly it in remote controlled, and it's like, just deploys itself. It is a cyber enhancement that Kong can wear over top of his arm, that also comes with green liquid that cures their injections. They cure his frostbite, I think. And the craziest part, it fits his right arm, the one that's been injured. I think it's his right arm, conveniently. I don't know if they had two arms there and they just called in one, but if they had two arms, why wouldn't you give him both of them? Which makes me think it's just the right arm, unless they had only enough supplies for one and it was, you could switch what arm it's on, maybe it can just change. But I like to think that it was just the right arm and they got really lucky, because how convenient would that be? We could have fixed this as well earlier by just not making it quite so convenient and just mentioning when they got to the wrecked base, like, oh my gosh, was this the base that had Project Powerhouse in it? Yeah, that was the space. Oh my goodness, that's crazy that these people were taken out. And then later when you bring it back, you can be like, yeah, that was that Project Powerhouse. We mentioned it earlier. It's weird because they do this with other things in the film. So as we go into the final fight, everyone's in this final fight. It's going crazy. And we have the civilization who mess with gravity. So we get at the beginning of the fight, like a little bit of zero G's as like Skar King's coming through that gate and he's trying to get to Earth. And also where the tribe is situated, they have a bunch of gates that lead directly to the surface of Earth because isn't that convenient? So the civilization is going to mess with the gravity to delay stuff so that Godzilla can get there, because we also have to pull Godzilla down from the surface. So Kong's going to get him. We got the humans. They're there. They're one, they're kind of getting knocked around, but two, Trapper actually uses the ship to bring back these bioelectric dinosaurs that the ship can camouflage with that were established in the first act of the movie. So we established that, but we decided Project Powerhouse, we're just gonna let that be so goofy. I just love that that was a choice they made. Baby Kong is there. Shimu is there. Skar King is there. Godzilla, of course, gets pulled down. Godzilla is there. And yeah, everyone's involved. Everyone's getting in on this. So the final fight feels a little bit confined to me. That is one thing I did not like about this final fight. Overall, I would say the fight scenes throughout this film have been really fun, a good time, and overall the film is just really fun. It's a fun time. It's a nice turn your brain off movie. It's not trying to be high art or anything like that. And it's just, you're gonna go and just have fun. Watch monsters beat up each other. The animation, I would say, is really good. But this final fight is a little bit disappointing. And I think it's because the fight doesn't really go bigger than the rest of the movie, but it's the final fight. It should be the biggest thing in this movie. It's this thing we've been building to the entire film. And because it doesn't go bigger than other fights in the movie, it feels anticlimactic. And I would say that the fight that Kong has with the other monkeys, the other apes, is bigger than this fight. In terms of that fight, I was actually excited. I felt like, oh, I don't really know exactly what's going to happen here. There felt like there was more stakes. It was just, I think, had a bit more going on in terms of the full direction of the fight. The final fight is more like people split off into pairs and then sometimes they switch and it's kind of like divided up into smaller pieces. I would love to see more dynamic interactions between the characters, and I'd love to see a little bit more excitement, a little bit more stakes. I mean, we've got Shimu and we've got Baby Kong here, and those are two characters where I didn't really know what was going to happen to them. And I feel like we didn't really play with that maybe as much as we could. We played with it a little bit, but I just feel like we could have done more. I will say the end of Skar King, just getting frozen and smashed, that was pretty brutal in a great way though. I did really like that. Very, very karma, because Skar King is the worst. Overall, I would say the film is a good time. And there is one other thing that I really want to talk about that I really liked. And I would say that is probably Baby Kong, Suko. I feel like a lot of the emotion that we have, especially in scenes where, you know, really we're just have, I think, models here. I don't know if there were actors involved or mocap involved. I tried to look into it, but I couldn't really find any information on that. So if you do know, or if you know if there were actors involved in this project, please feel free to shout out names in the comments. I would love to, you know, add them at least somewhere to make sure that they get shouted out. They deserve all the praise if they do exist. If not, the animators deserve a ton of praise. Or, you know, if both of them really deserve praise if there's people and animators involved. But if no people, just straight up animators deserve our praise, because man, they really brought these models to life. Suko has so much emotion. You really get a full sense of a story without like any words being spoken. And, you know, these are monster creatures. It's everything with Baby Kong. I really liked the fighting, the little bit of bonding that they have, just Baby Kong not being sure whether or not to trust Kong, the fact that when they go back to where the Skar King is, and then it seems like Baby Kong's parental figure is tossed into a pit of lava. Goodness, I don't know if I cried, but I definitely felt like emotions. Like I was feeling emotions throughout this entire movie in terms of the ways that these monsters are interacting with each other. So that I really loved. I gotta say, I would give this one overall, I'm gonna stick with what I said before. I think I'm just gonna say overall rating though. So overall, I would give this a 3 out of 5. It's a really fun, really good like monster movie. I mean, it's not going to win any Academy Awards, but that's okay. It's got 80s synth. And if you just want to go to a film and relax and have a good time, I think this is perfectly fine. If not, great. I would recommend it. If you can go see it in in IMAX. I think this would be a fun one to see in IMAX. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. I just thought it was a good time. That's it for me on this one, friends. I hope you enjoyed this review, and until next time, stay nerdy.